How delighted I am to see you again, Rabbi Michael.
Hello, Mark. It's good to see you.
Thanks. It was great meeting you at Brian Grimm's event a little bit ago, and how the world has changed, right?
You know, it's a tragic change, but I really am very optimistic that it's going to be for the better.
Yeah, so am I. From as they say, what do they say? From breakdown comes opportunity, if you will, and here we are. We're going to create the opportunity.
Let's put this in the right context. With all due respect to the pain and the suffering and the sickness and the deaths, this is not anthrax.
There you go. All right, well, that put it in perspective.
Really, honestly, I mean, on the scale of pandemics.
But it is also, and we won't go too much into this, it is also the first time the world has ever shut down all at once.
Well, I don't know if it's the first time, but it's you know, it certainly has humbled us.
Yeah, that's for sure. So let's start off. If you could just briefly tell people who you are.
Hi, I'm Michael Shevack. I'm a rabbi. Mark met me as the social responsibility officer for the Patton Foundation, which is part of the Patton Alliance. It was created by the granddaughter of General Patton, and we're about continuing the liberation, meaning that force of goodness that was the thrust of American clear-minded democracy and force of freedom that liberated Europe. We want to continue that because we think that was really when we were at our best and the future of the world looked brightest. And we're about continuing that.
That's awesome. With you know, the infamous everybody thinks they need to have a why, and I kind of believe that. But can you share with us what your why is? But more importantly, why do you do what you do?
As a person or professionally with the Patton Foundation?
You.
Well, basically, the truth?
That would be nice.
I'm in pain. I'm actually in pain. You know, the world, when the world is split in directions, I feel it. I feel it as if it actually hurts my own very body. And I work to heal myself from the pain at the same time as I'm working to change the world. Basically, because I'm a father. I don't know how to do anything else but leave the world a better world for my kids. Otherwise, what kind of father am I? It's very basic.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And you know, feeling and caring are all great words that we need to use more. Not to mention love. And so, as a father of three, I feel you.
Yeah.
You know,
that's all I can do. I mean, I've done the gig of being on Madison Avenue, where I earned more than enough money to insulate my children from the very decayed value system that I was operating in. They could just live in a little bubble. But, you know, the bubble itself, even if they're protected by money, it's still a bubble. The purpose is to leave them a world that's better. As a father, I can't really be a father unless I'm doing that, can I?
Totally agree, and it's in a way a good segue to, you know, what in my career I've noticed and worked also with a lot of corporate brands, and it's funny that it's taken decades for leaders of companies to align their brand with social impact.
Sure.
They finally realized that that's the only way they're going to attract the best talent, but
Sure.
then they also realized that it's actually really good, which they didn't realize before. It's really good for business. And you mentioned the advertising world. You were kind of in the Mad Men world and deeply engaged in that way back. Totally. And you but you've also now been involved in business ethics, and you're involved in spirituality and religious arenas and so on. I wanted to ask you kind of a push question a little bit about you. What differentiates you now as one of the leaders who care from your experiences and the future?
Well, I have a couple of gifts that I believe are quite unique. And when I say that, it's not a matter of, gee, aren't I great? You know, it's not a matter of that. It's that I've noticed that I have these gifts, and I've noticed that I haven't met many people who had them. Okay. And one of the things that I have a gift for is that I can actually spiritually kind of discern where to find the truth in a situation. Okay. In other words, it's not, not just whose opinion you're going to follow, or taking the opposite opinion because you want to define your own individuality, which is really how teenagers do it. But I have an ability to sift through nonsense and get to the core of an issue. And I have an intuitive sense on how to set up a functional business process for fulfilling a difficulty. And it's what I do. And it's a very strange combination of my own gift spiritually, but it's also my own rabbinic training, and as well as my business acumen, because I insisted that they be unified. One of the things that I actually despise is contradictions, whether they're intellectual or in life process. Like COVID is a contradiction. It's a little virus that tumbled our empires. It's very biblical. It's very biblical. So when I see that, what I see is a disunity. And whenever I see a disunity, the unity, which is the bottom line definition of God, is not present, and I begin to search. And that's how I think. That's how I think. And by the way, it's inseparable, whether it's religion or whether it's business. Jews have been socially ethical and socially responsible, Bernie Madoff aside, for generations, and there is no disjunct between the two. It's simply a confusion in our own minds. So I consider the business and the spiritual ethics to be one and the same thing. And I just think it has to become a more generalized knowledge, and it must be profitable. Otherwise, people will not believe it in a market economy.
Yeah, it's so right on to why we're doing this, why we work and commit to work with leaders who care. And
sure.
we're calling it this because the two have to be aligned. And I think finally, you said so well, finally, it's been realized that, you don't have to have just great quarterly results or just great for the shareholders. You can have both, do good and be good for profit too. And, you talked about being a father. My grandparents, and probably most grandparents have said this, but the one thing they always said right at the beginning, and they were from Kiev, they said, as long as you have your health, that's the most important thing, right? Constantly. And I'm sure your parents, grandparents, everybody, that was the number one thing. And they worked hard, but that was the number one thing. And now you look at technology and the speed of the change. You look at COVID, as you say, and how that little thing has impacted social and economic, like bar none. There's kind of been an awakening, or maybe people have just had more time to think about what's important now as per health. With that said, how do you view doing business is going to change? How do you view how the future work's going to be in the next few months, not to mention years?
All right. This is such a huge question. I don't even know where to tackle it. First of all, it's the premise. What your grandmother mentioned is the premise of a book that I wrote, and I don't have to plug it. It's not essential.
Plug away.
It's called The Six Fix. Okay. All right. It's spiritual healthcare. Okay. And so let me just give you a little theology, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Basically, the problem that you're dealing with in the world is that we've inherited a Roman economic system. I mean, I don't know, in the New Testament, you'll know about the whole debate of Caesar's coin and whether or not, how to revere it. Should you revere it? And Jesus, who is a good bro of mine, he said very, very clearly, he said, look, pay attention, respect Caesar's face is on there, okay? But don't revere it, because the true king is not Caesar. It's not his world economic system that he's creating. It's the creator, the ones who made birds, bees, plants. And whenever our egos get out of control, whenever our systems get out of control, biblically, whether it's Pharaoh or whether it's Tower of Babel, whenever that happens and our minds exalt themselves over the world, over creation in a way that upstages God, we always get a plague. All right? If you look throughout history, you'll always see it. You'll always see there's a pattern of disease that follows immediately after excessive ego. All right? So that's my preamble. What your grandmother was saying was that life comes first. Okay? It's people first. Life comes first. Profit comes second. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be profitable. Caesar comes second. The creator, you don't believe in God? I'm fine with that. The mystery, which is how the planet and us got here, and what created the interrelationships and patterns that we call ecosystem, and that sometimes bothers people because I'll be a tree hugger or a global warmer person and all this crazy nonsense. It's a priority. Once you have life, okay, the most important thing is to maintain life and be healthy so you make the maximum contribution to this world. The economic system, because it is Roman, all right, even though it was Western, okay, put the coins and the sharing of the coins outside of the context of God and creation. When it was putting it in the context of God and creation, when the Protestant work ethic was really good and honed, okay, it did fantastic things. But we're dealing in a period of tremendous excess, okay? And the excess is you have extremes of mentally trying to control the systems of human beings to create good and economic wealth, which is important and good, and God bless it. Let's have more of it. But because it's imbalanced, you have the opposite excess, which is you have people who are overly concerned about the social concerns and overly concerned about the ecological concerns. And these are two excesses that are mutually co-balancing. They're supposed to come together. Now, they don't come together as some sleazy socialist communist nightmare. Please, please. They don't come together as raw capitalism, where you deny social global warming, whatever its cause. You don't deny it because your real goal is unlimited, unbridled usurping of all the resources on the planet for your economic systems. That's Roman law. That's not Jewish law. Mm-hmm. And by the way, we Jews said no to that. I just wanted to tell you, we were hated for it, but we didn't join the empire. We kind of snuck in. You know what I mean? But the point of the matter is, you're dealing with, Mark, a historical tendency, the result of a history in the development of capitalism through its various stages. This is not a problem as much as it's a course readjustment because of where capitalism came from and how it developed. So that's why I'm thoroughly optimistic, because all the pieces of the puzzle are here. They have to be assembled in a way which is not destructive. You can't have social systems that drain the capital out of things. You can't do anything with it. Right. But on the other hand, you can't have capitalist systems that are pumped up so artificially that a virus, a tiny little virus, will cripple it, So your grandma was right, okay? Your grandma was right. What we're learning from COVID is very simple. The foundation of the economic system is people first. And upon the free activity of people in an entrepreneurial fashion, you can create this living, amazing symbol of sharing, which is called money. And there is no faster tool for spiritual development than money. It can do more things faster and save more lives and educate more people and make more people healthier than anything. God bless it. The more of it earned righteously and cleanly, may we have it. Okay? But we have to put it in a right context. It has to be life-centered. Your grandmother outlined what I outlined in my book, which is value priority number one. Health comes first. Health is not healthcare, by the way. If you get people who have health, you don't have to have these ridiculous, cumbersome systems, because 90% of the people who never ever wind up in a hospital anyway. So the issue is health. This is the first thing you want to do in terms of the healthcare problem, and no one ever talks about it. Health is you're dealing with lunatics. I got to tell you, you're dealing with lunatics.
I know.
and they're people just like me. But so I think COVID is going to, if we heed the broader theological lessons of it, they're biblical. They're both Old Testament and New Testament, by the way. Okay. We'll put our economics on a solid, life-based foundation first, and then build up. And by the way, I'm going to prove my point. The word economics in the Greek comes from oikomene, which means household. Household. Okay? If you want to know what happens to our economy, why it doesn't work, it's because we didn't treat our household members correctly. Okay? And by the way, it comes from the same root word as ecumenism. So, the relationship between the different beliefs in our household and the treatment of our own family members who are all human beings, that's bucks. That's bucks. Treating people well creates bucks. And if you're not going to do it because you're a nice person, then use your greed to transform the world.
There you go. I think it's wise what you're saying. And, I had an influencer way back once told me brilliance is simple. And I tried to figure out what that meant. And it doesn't mean things aren't complicated, but it is simple. And you said the household, that could be the community as well. It could be about, people first, as you say. And even our name, the Fifth Element Group, is based on the fifth industrial revolution, which is about humanity overseeing the fourth industrial revolution, which is AI and blockchain and all that stuff. And so what you say is amazingly brilliantly simple, and it kind of leads to where we talk about leaders who care. We have the feeling that not only business leaders can lead the way, but if there are business leaders who care, and this would be the question for you, current business leaders, future business leaders who care, they should be playing, and don't you see them playing a key role in ensuring not only the financial well-being, but the physical and mental well-being of their talent, of their families, and understand that that's going to impact positively their business and even flow into the community?
Now, look, I'm a very simple guy. Businesses are religions. Religions are also businesses. These categories don't make any sense to me. They're enterprises, and the enterprises have philosophies that drive them. They have people who manufacture these philosophies, turn them into products, distribute the products, evangelize the products. Businesses are teaching organizations at their best. They're there to teach values. They're part of families. In the more industrial age, every town had a business. If you take a look at how Kodak up there in what is it, Rochester?
Rochester, yeah.
How Kodak and that community were so knitted together, and you see the ethical structure and the humanity of a company and how it can shape a community.
Yeah.
Businesses, the idea that business is this thing that makes money, it's not a machine that pumps out coins. It wants to be, but unfortunately, we're living in a reality here that's designed by something that has a spiritual order to it. And with all due respect to business, if you're going to come up with a cuckoo idea, like take defaulted loans and turn it into an investment, and then you wonder why it crashes and the economy tanks on it when you build up, and you wonder why it happened. Well, it happened because it was a lie. It had no life value. So when businesses build themselves on values that are life-based, okay? And I mean not just human life, whole life and creation, there's an interrelationship here. You know, Genesis, okay? The foundation to all the three Western religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and the entire foundation of this planet. When you build it on that, you'll have a solid foundation to business. If you don't, your business will go up and down and it will be swayed to the vicissitudes of the market, okay? And this is theology, this is business sense now that we're in an era where we can't just rape the planet for resources and we have to find a way to cooperate with it. It's like 4.5 element. Your fifth element, by the way, is really critical, because if we wind up enslaved to AI, exactly, it will be a nightmare. It will be a technological antichrist.
Well, that's why we're trying to recognize, not to be cute, leaders who care about this stuff and how it's, and you know, one thing I've always found, and I can't quote the Bible or anything as much as you, but I think people's hearts and souls are most filled by belonging to a community of some kind or another. And it's funny, well, that's a crazy expression because it's never funny when you say it's funny, but when towns were built years ago, you had the town hall, you had the center of town, everything was built around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff happened, business, community, the fairs, whatever. It was all community.
It was community, but it was a different kind of community, and we have to caveat it.
Mm-hmm.
The American Revolution was an astonishing thought, you know, a thought inspiration. You know, the idea that the structural norm of a society was not its laws, but was a relationship of each individual to the creator, to quote the Declaration of Independence. And that the rules and regulations of society and religion were all secondary to the freedom of each human spirit, brought into play something which we have not integrated adequately in our communities, which is how far does an individual take their freedom? Are there any qualifications? So what happens is we're tested. We're a very young nation, and yet we have the oldest living continuous constitution. It's very, very strange. America's very strange, very wise and very infantile, okay? But we have endowed the individual as the structural spine of America, okay? That the creator works with the individual for the pursuit of happiness. But we've made laws merely for the common good. So you have this dramatic tension where we don't know how to take the radicalness of the abstract individual and marry it with the necessity of law and order. And again, we have two dynamic excesses in opposite that need to come together in a way that is neither libertarian nor, you know, all of these cuckoo concepts, because they have no life foundation to them. Do you know what I mean? They're just like inventions. They're like imaginary bridges. So we have to integrate the freedom of individuality with, you know, the blood and guts, you know, Patton, the blood and guts, the brains and guts of correct moral order and structure. And that's what we need to do. And it's not going to be one or the other. It's going to be both, or we're going to lose the American system entirely. And that's what part of this challenge is. We don't know how to be, because we are becoming the answer to that. This is part of the evolution of the United States of America and the world economic system, which is really based on us. You know, British style, You know, everyone has a toilet and can cook in their house, but the freedom of individuality is our gift to the world. Okay. So, you know, this is a very complex thing to handle. That's why I wrote the book, because I needed to find a way as a former ad man, how do I teach it to people?
Right.
You know what I mean? Going through the theology and going through 1,000 tomes is not the way to do it. So it's an exciting time. It's a mind-boggling time.
It is. It is. And with that, I'm going to jump with that. Let's conclude with, if you got the graduating class that unfortunately don't have their graduations, if you're 1 or 2 sentences to the graduating class saying, with respect to what you've just said, they asked you, okay, can you give me some advice? What do I do now? What's next?
You are the most blessed generation in the history of the world. You have spent, you have close to 1944, we're approaching 85 years without a major war. Okay, without a major world war. You have economic systems that are developed to free people from lack, that are now so finely honed that you can push a button and deprive people of poverty. Okay, you have everything there. You have information systems that allow you to connect to our enemies and become friends, and no government would get in the way. You have an electronic communion body that connects you to the entirety of the whole world, and ultimately will redefine our democracy, where we can vote. Each one of us can vote. We don't need sloppy things like electoral colleges. You have everything except a star to reach for. So the star is truth. Don't worship my opinion. Don't worship your own opinion. Don't worship anyone's opinion. Don't trust governments. Don't trust religions. Don't trust gurus. Don't trust bosses. Don't trust money. Okay? Don't trust anything, not because it's not trustworthy, because they're not God. They're pieces of the elephant. They're not the whole elephant. No one knows who the whole elephant is. You put all the blind people together. Even the blind people together don't know what the elephant is. The elephant doesn't know who the elephant is. Okay? Look for truth. Orient your thinking process for truth. And it's not theoretical truth. It's practical truth. Okay? A philosophy of experience that produces what we all want. Good. That's all we want. Good. By the way, God is just a shortening of the word good. So if you don't believe in God, I don't give half. Functionally, go for good. Look for the truth. Don't worship anyone's opinion or idea. It's all under truth. Be inspired by the past. Past inspiration, but truth-based. Draw on the experience of the past, but make it truth-based and make it practical, that creates good for yourself first, another, all others, okay? Future generations, all life and creation, and continuously improve, because no one's perfect. Just keep improving and we will transform this world.
That's
happy
the truth.
Happy graduation.
That's awesome.
Happy Mazel Tov. Happy graduation.
Thanks for that. And you've heard it here first. That's the truth. Thanks for joining us.
Right. So God bless. Really, thanks for the honor of speaking to you.
Total pleasure.